Hello and welcome back to the Crypto Frontline, where the markets meet insights. I am Manoj Dharra, and today we are thrilled to have blockchain expert, strategist, author, and a market expert, Mr. Anndy Lian. Sir, welcome on 3.0 TV.
Good to see you again, my friend.
It is always a pleasure to have you. So, as crypto flirts with all-time high and institutional interest deepens, there is no better time to get an take from you. And what is your first reaction on how the market is performing?
I think I give you a slightly longer answer. So if you notice that currently I write every day about the market and so forth. So I think the current market right now is really experiencing a very strong bullish trend. With Bitcoin breaking past 110,000, Ethereum reaching 2,800 and maybe 27 or 28. And it's highest in its 15-week. And if you look at the statistics right now, Bitcoin itself has already been more than 100,000 for more than 30 days. So this is a very, very good sign. And of course, we all know a lot of this surge is actually driven by institution interests and also, of course, the whole positive market sentiments right now as we are speaking.
All right. So sentiment is positive. Things are looking very interesting, but sentiment is buzzing. And your perspective, is this rally structurally different from the 2021 which we had, or are we into a similar boom in the buzz cycle? If there is any comparison, Andy.
I think is really different. The reason why I say that in the beginning, it is actually a bit stronger than before is because right now, almost all of the volume that you see are driven by institution, right? Maybe the retail is getting a bit smaller, but if you look at the previous round, I think the retail market plays a much larger role, compared
Fantastic.
to what you see right now. So give you a bit of statistics, for example, right now, the market cap for cryptocurrency is more than 3 trillion, right? You can see the resilience not only in Bitcoin, but of course, Bitcoin, the dominance is very strong. Bitcoin market cap itself is already more than 2 trillion, as of June right now. Ethereum itself is also getting a lot higher. XRP is also getting a lot higher with a very strong hundreds of billions right now. So what we see is different from previous time because you see that all the rest of the coins are all growing together. But of course, Bitcoin is still having the strongest dominance because the institution money right now are mainly in the Bitcoin. But As you can see, things will flow, things will change. And in the months to come, or in the next quarter, we will definitely see some good changes going on when the ETFs, strikes the market. Whether it's a Solana ETF, is it going to be a XRP ETF? Time is going to tell us, man.
Fantastic. You spoke about altcoins. We will discuss about the altcoins in detail later in our interaction. But let me break this question in two parts. My first question, you spoke about institutional investors and its money. So we are seeing a record-breaking flows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs, as you mentioned, Andy. And what's driving this sustained interest? And do you think this momentum is sustainable post the Bitcoin halving as well?
I think it's still a little bit early to say. ETF flowing in from Bitcoin especially reported more than 600 million withdrawn. In June, with an outflow of 157 million as well. So I think the market sentiment has shifted. With Bitcoin reclaiming higher price. And when Bitcoin reclaimed the higher price surpassing the 110,000 that we talk about, I think the confidence level is going to be high. So if you ask me right now in a very quick manner, I think yes, it's going to be sustainable, but it really depends on whether there are any other geopolitical problems that's going to come out, right? Or maybe Elon Musk and Trump is going to have another small quarrel. Things will change a little bit, But as of now, I think yes. Things are looking very rosy.
So there are a few hate and love relation which will continue in the markets, but corporates are smiling. And as a part of their treasury strategy, Bitcoin is taking the center stage. So what's your take on the shift? Is it risk management, branding, or a genius belief in the Bitcoin's long-term value, Andy?
I think the Bitcoin's long-term value has already been verified. It has been ongoing for the last decade and is still running strong. Previously people have doubts in Bitcoin. Right now, it become perhaps a really really strong treasury tool, for a lot of these institutions. But of course, if you ask the question in this manner, I would also love to bring up another thing that I think is also important. Right now, if you look at MicroStrategy or strategy, that Michael Saylor is running, it has hit about 3% in terms of their holdings, and I think their target possibly going more than 5%, of holding. But to be very honest, if you gather some market feedback and so forth, people are actually pretty worried, with that kind of holding, within an institution. There might be cases where people think that this is too centralized. Central banks might not buy into that idea,
Right.
because of that kind of concentration, and of course that kind of concentration in the media limelight. So sometimes it's a little bit tricky and a little bit double-edged. If you would ask me.
So since we are talking about corporate strategy and the road ahead, there are many copycat trades that are happening. You spoke about the MicroStrategy, and we have MetaPlanet, we have other countries as well. There are few companies also they are adopting this strategy. But beyond Bitcoin, there is Ethereum as well, the second largest crypto by market cap, and there are several statements that are coming from the Ethereum universe. We will also discuss about how the other altcoins and which are your favorite coins and the blockchain. But which sector or specific tokens do you believe, Andy, have the fundamentals of outperforming in this cycle? You spoke about Solana and XRP. And is there any specific coin do you like? And what is the reason behind this approach?
I think maybe before I go into the altcoins and so forth, I also want to briefly mention that the altcoins right now also hugely depends on how the Bitcoin market is going to be like, right? So we talk about corporate holdings before this, but of course corporate holdings also comes with risk. So if Bitcoin prices were to drop perhaps 22% or 25% below average purchase prices, corporate strategies who are holding more than 3% of the total supply would be forced into some sort of liquidation or adding selling pressure to the market. Mm-hmm. When these things happen, then the altcoins that we talk about will all be affected. Right now, if you talk about altcoin, I think the one that's performing relatively well, in terms of pricing, in terms of the kind of support on the ground, I think Solana did very well, XRP did well, Cardano did well, of course, BNB did well as well. So relatively, I think if you look at the top 10 cryptocurrency by market cap based on the recent data, I think what I have mentioned, the few coins that I have mentioned, is definitely something that you should really watch for. Not because the price is good, but there are already people building really hard behind the scene to keep things going.
Fantastic.
Right? And of course, if you zoom into more specific, again in the top 10, another coin that you perhaps can really take a look and is a bit more fun would be the Dogecoin, right? Yeah. So if you look at it this way, a few days ago it was about 0.18, right? Right now it's about 0.19 plus. So I think there's still room to grow, for a coin like Doge, with good support in the US, mm-hmm. and good support from the really fun degen space. Mm-hmm. I'm really hoping to see that, maybe their ETF can go through. A lot of things can happen, man.
But Andy, as you mentioned about a systemic risk with the Bitcoin price slipping below the average buying price, there is also a family support of Donald Trump to this ecosystem. And what is your opinion, very quickly, if you can just highlight that before we move on to our last few questions?
Trump is actually doing a fantastic job in marketing himself and the kind of portfolio that he's holding. Mm-hmm. And recently, with Trump Media going for a IPO, I think things are going to head towards the right direction where his portfolio is going to be pumped. Then of course, if you ask me, then you have to look at what portfolio is he holding. Of course, the top few coins that we talk about is within his holdings. But bear in mind other things, because of the way that he does and he runs his business, things can be a little bit more controversial, right? And then when these strange vibes or if he does too much of marketing of all these crypto coins and so forth, trying to pump his own bags, per se, things might shift again, So again, I like what he's doing right now, but I think he needs to be a little bit more careful and be more compliant to some of the things that he's trying to do. Marketing in that manner definitely have a bit of a risk, and then of course a few days ago, there was also an article that the SEC might want to kind of liberalize the whole decentralized market, giving them more room to play, in the name of innovation. That is also something that is really, really risky. I put up an article today or yesterday about this. And again, all these things are risk, right? If you want to open up the whole decentralized market, we need to know what kind of risk we are going ahead, right? Of course, this is still something that is not ink, not 100% confirmed in my opinion. I hope that they could really adopt, like the sandbox model in Singapore or the sandbox model in India.
Fantastic.
That could make things a little bit more favorable, man, for everybody.
You mentioned about compliance. So here is my question to you, Andy. You have also worked with one of the greatest exchanges in your past. Markets is booming. Volumes are on the uptick. And as we speak, the derivative market commands roughly around 70 to 75% of the market share in the total trade volume. If you separate the spot and this thing, you also mentioned about retail. So how are you going to explain this shift in dynamics? Because as we speak, there are a lot of exchanges such as the Hyperliquid that have gained a market share from Binance. So according to a market expert and someone who is advising exchanges, Andy, what is your view on this situation?
I think the situation is very unique right now as we speak. Whatever the case is for the last quarter and the coming one, I think it will be very much driven by the institution, right? And exchanges are definitely benefiting from this whole process, right? But in order for the market to really go full bull run, I made a post on X a couple of weeks ago. Maybe the market needs to correct at least about 30% or more, just to get in more retail guys to come in.
Fantastic.
To fill up the gaps, to really make the bull run more sustainable. I think the retail piece got to come in, right? But of course, some of my friends will say that, hey, Andy, this is crazy, right? How can this go down for 30%? Number one, I think historically we can see the market can be very volatile, right? So dropping a 30% is definitely possible, right? And then of course they will say that, hey, why not fix the price at give them the mindset that, okay, Bitcoin will never fall below 100,000, right? And then ask them to buy from there and build the confidence. But that's very tough, right? Because a lot of this market and why crypto exists in the first place is to help those that are unbanked, right? Give people more financial freedom and so forth. Asking them to buy 100,000 worth of Bitcoin for only one, I think that's not an easy task, right? And then last but not least, as we can see in the previous bull run, that is driven a lot, or maybe driven more by the retail investor.
Exactly.
It didn't last very long, right? So right now, if we really want to see a big, sustainable run, for the whole crypto market, both retail and the institutions got to work hand in hand just
Fantastic.
to make sure that we get the sustainable outcomes that we want.
All right, one last question, Andy. If you have anything in your mind, if you can name one crypto trend or surprise twist for the rest of 2025 that people aren't watching closely enough, so what could it be?
To be very honest, I think the few trends and narrative has been very obvious, but I personally still felt that the AI narrative is going to work very well for all of us. As you can see right now, most of the projects try their very best to integrate with the AI element, and for me, as some of my friends will know, I'm always advocating Web 4, right? Web 4 is not something. It's not a stranger to many of us, but what I want to really see is having a Web 4 that is really decentralized, driven by AI. And I think that narrative is going to take us a very long way, because that kind of narrative not only interests people from the Web3 industry, who are very much into the crypto space, but also the Web2 guys who are very much driven by this AI trend. So again, both of them add together, and that will form a really, really nice narrative, in the months and in the years to come.
All right, Andy. One rapid fire question and answer session we will play, and it's about about the levels. When the Bitcoin will touch $150,000, Andy, according to you, very quickly.
I mentioned this on the stage at the Crypto Expo Dubai last month. I think by the end of the year, it will hit about 150,000.
Fantastic.
Judging on the current metrics, I think 150,000 is attainable.
When will Ethereum touch its all-time high? It will touch $5,000.
Probably when $5,000. Wow, that will be also around the stage where Bitcoin is going to go 150, 160. I think.
All right, so
that's quite near possible.
So any altcoin that will be after that will have its Ethereum, it's like it's ETF launched after Ethereum. Is it Cardano, Solana, or XRP?
I think XRP is going to get it first. Yeah.
All right, that's all there is. Thanking you, Andy, for being a part of this interaction. You spoke really well about how the institutional funds are shaping this crypto ecosystem. It was a pleasure having you, and I wish you all the best going forward. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks, bro.